can never expect a neighbor. I mean, I can never imagine to expect something like that.
Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the most infamous cases of terrible people who caused nearby residents a whole lot of trouble with their grim, often illegal behavior, only for them to see some delightful consequences.
They just kept pushing and pushing my wrong button, and it got to a point where I just basically blew up and maybe did the wrong thing.
Number 10. Shape of You.
I'm in love with the shape of you. We push and pull like a magnet do.
For months, Claire Tidmarsh in Wollenhall, England had endured one loud party after another from neighbor Sonia Bryce. After complaining to her landlord, Bryce was given a court order for being a nuisance, which she broke numerous times and was arrested. But in 2017, Tidmarsh reached her breaking point when Bryce played Ed Sheeran's Shape of You loudly for half an hour.
Hey, can you turn your music down, please? Because I'm having a really hard time.
Whatever.
Bryce was dragged back to court and sentenced to 8 weeks in prison for the noise attack. Another famous case of noise bombardment came in 2006 with Miyoko Kawahara in the Nara prefecture in Japan. Kawahara was given a 20-month jail sentence for, among other things, playing loud music for unconscionable periods of time. Number 9. Slayer of Lawns.
After calling police 40 times that year, Torres finally got a restraining order.
According to Bob Daragopian in Miami-Dade, Florida, the problem began in 2008 when he hired a landscape company, ignoring the business that belonged to his neighbor, Mitchell Ijelko. For 4 years, Ijelko sought revenge against everyone. He reportedly destroyed people's lawns with chemicals, threw eggs at cars, threatened violence, set fire to a boat, and put nails on driveways and roads.
Francisco Torres says he installed a $70,000 security system equipped with 10 surveillance cameras after he claims his neighbors started harassing him.
With all the CCTV evidence the neighbors had collected, Ijelko was arrested in 2012 and charged with stalking and criminal mischief. For that, he received 5 years of probation. He later claims this neighborly reign of terror started when he saw a resident hurt his dog and he lost control.
Ijelko's lawyer, though, says the judge granted a delay and that his client is now trying to make things right.
He is making heroic efforts to move out of the neighborhood.
Number 8. Color Rage. For 14 years, retired couple Mavis and Alan Ward in Thornton Cleveley's England felt the wrath of Kirsty Robertson. She regularly abused them verbally, broke into their garden to destroy plants, and threw things at their bungalow. At one point, she stared at Alan and drew a finger across her throat. Yikes.
Oh, no, it's a symbol. This is a symbol for you slicing his throat.
And what sort of trigger caused this tirade of harassment? It must have been pretty horrible, right? Yeah, no. Robertson reportedly hated the color of Ward's property. After 8 attempts to get justice, the time finally came for the retirees in 2015 when Robertson was handed a 4-year restraining order that banned her from contacting the couple in person or virtually. Number 7. Fiery Grass.
Police say Bennett returned the next day with 2 cans of gas, broke through this door, then poured the gasoline and set the house on fire with a lighter.
Many of us have seen a neighbor whose grass is too long or plants are overgrown. Most of us just criticize them quietly in our own heads. But Philip Bennett took a much more drastic option in 2013. In Cartersville, Georgia, he was livid that the Corbett family had let the grass grow too tall.
Last week, police tell me the suspect walked from his house across the street, came into Corbett's yard, and slapped him.
After arguing about it, Bennett later slapped Marty. Then, a week after it began, an unhinged Bennett threw a brick through Corbett's window, poured gasoline into the house and around the property, and set it afire. While Marty and his daughter got out, the house was destroyed. Bennett, who was on parole for manslaughter, was arrested for arson.
The Corbetts are just happy that the man charged with destroying their lives will face justice in a court of law.
I want to really see true justice happen.
Number 6. Hacker from Hell. In 2008, Matt and Bethany Kostolnik moved into their new home in Blaine, Minnesota, and into a nightmare. When neighbor Barry Ardolph behaved inappropriately with their son, the Kostolniks reported him to the police. In retaliation, Ardolph began a campaign of harassment by hacking into their Wi-Fi. He forged emails indicating Matt was having an affair and made it look like Matt had been accessing illegal content, among other things. But Ardolph's plan fell apart when he used Matt's account to send a violent threat to Joe Biden. The FBI traced it to Ardolph, searched his home, and discovered his deeds. In 2011, as well as losing his job, Ardolph was sentenced to 18 years in prison. Number 5. Cruel and Crawly. For decades, Gordon Clark has been a massive problem for a community in Crawley, England. Examples: he sang "Another One Bites the Dust" after hearing about a neighbor with a terminal illness.
Another one bites the dust, and another one gone, and another one gone, another one bites the dust.
He also applauded at a funeral procession, fired air rifles, and burned plastic to create a noxious smell to haunt his neighbors. Clark had been handed antisocial behavior orders for his antics, but they did little to deter him even when they resulted in short prison stints. In 2012, Clark's harassment sentence included a 1-year community order, 150 hours of unpaid work, and a £300 fine. His 2022 sentence for animal neglect was suspended. Number 4. Neighborhood Stalker. In 2009, Jason Clark put up a massive fence and cameras around his property in Montgomery, Alabama, and slowly began stockpiling weapons. He then spent years terrorizing his neighbors in a litany of ways.
It has been a whole neighborhood problem. The whole neighborhood has stood with us 100%.
On top of physically attacking and violently threatening people, he also flashed strobe lights at drivers hoping they'd crash. Clark also shot at people's homes and sprayed poison on the lawns and gardens of neighbors, leading to the demise of a neighbor's dog. His reign of terror caused several residents to move away. After a lot of legal battles over the years, it came to a head in 2016 when Clark was sentenced on 2 counts of stalking, earning 40 years in prison.
Shining spotlights into their houses, loud noises, we believe probably listening to phone calls and things like that.
Number 3. Downstairs Demon.
Hit me! Hit me! Hit me! Here? He's gonna deck a woman!
For months, residents of an apartment complex in Long Beach, California lived in fear of Lorene May Lake, who wreaked havoc on her neighbors with her hateful ways. She racially abused people, vividly threatened them, and even bit and spat at one person. One resident was concerned that at any point, Lake might start shooting folk.
And every day I'm praying to God, this isn't the day she just decides to blast me through this window and I'm dead.
Even after being arrested and getting a restraining order, Lake continued her campaign of terror. But in 2022, thanks to a whole host of evidence, including a video of Lake holding a rope and threatening a resident, she was arrested by the cops and charged with several counts.
They claim the issue is complicated by local laws restricting evictions. They are planning to file a building restraining order on Monday, but many here fear that's too late.
In 2023, she was sent to a 2-year diversion program and received substance abuse treatment. Number 2. pH disaster.
They checked the appliances, hoping to determine the source of the smell, but couldn't. A month later, Umar says his eyes started to burn and his daughter was coughing and throwing up.
In 2023, Umar Abdullah and his family were going through hell. Their apartment smelt strongly of chemicals, causing his infant daughter to become ill. Even after getting plumbers and cleaners to check appliances and getting the all clear, the problem remained. After Abdullah found a small crack by the front door and the heavy smell of chemicals, he set up a camera. Soon, PhD student Zuming Lee was seen squeezing a concoction in the gap. He had used the lab at the University of South Florida to mix together powerful opioids.
According to a Tampa Police Department affidavit, a hazmat test found the liquid chemical agent contained both methadone and hydrocodone,
allegedly to get vengeance for a noise complaint. Lee was charged with several crimes, including stalking and possessing controlled substances. He pleaded not guilty and is set to be tried in December 2023.
I still believe that there are not too many persons like him, but still it is like a trauma.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Long-term harassment.
But the Hoffmans were about to learn walking away from the wrath of Lori Christensen wouldn't be that simple.
In 2013, Lori Christensen gained national infamy for her reign of terror against her neighbors, Greg and Kim Hoffman, in White Bear Lake, Minnesota. Christensen would yell expletives at their children, put up signs mocking Kim's battle with alcohol, and threaten them with violence, resulting in over 100 calls to the cops. And it all started after their daughters fell out in 1999.
The family says Christensen also shouted profanities at them about their dogs, got into a dispute with them over a fence they put up, and had the head of a female mannequin on a stake on her deck, which she would turn so it faced the family's home.
After violating a restraining order, Christensen was eventually arrested and sentenced to 5 years of probation, a $200 fine, 50 hours of community service, and counseling. Christensen returned to the news in 2021 when she was arrested for harassing new people in a different neighborhood, using the same terror tropes as before. What's the worst thing you have ever done to a neighbor, and why did you do it? Let us know below.
It makes me a little nervous, actually, with her car, and the behavior just seems a little strange, so.
Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.